You're listening to Mental Health Unmuted, Grabbing the Aux. Mental Health Unmuted is a growing community of young adult and youth leaders in Illinois with an interest in mental health. And this is the podcast, brought to you by NAMI Illinois, the National Alliance on Mental Illness Illinois State Organization. This podcast features conversations with the Mental Health Unmuted work group, with guests and spotlights on topics that matter to us. This work group focuses on creating and applying innovative strategies that involve three pillars: anti stigma, advocacy, and building a community of support, providing the voice to emphasize the youth and young adult perspective. Disclaimer: we are not psychiatrists, clinicians, and we are not social workers, but we are experts in our own experience with mental health and wellness. We call this living experience. Our expertise are developed from our experiences as individuals, as young people, and our passions. Everyone has mental health. You are not alone, and more than enough. It's time to act and talk about it. Let's do this. Hey, yay! Welcome to Mental Health Unmuted.
I'm Teklii D, Director for Mental Health Unmuted. I want to let everyone introduce themselves who's here this evening for this podcast session about self-care. Because so far we've been chatting and we've had some interesting topics already come up. So, Arielle, let's start with you. One of you, whichever one.
Oh, I can go. My name is Arielle H. With NAMI Illinois. I'm a Stevenson Center Fellow. Over to you, Arielle.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I'm Arielle J. I actually work in public health, but I have always been very passionate about mental health. So, being able to do mental health unmuted, I'm kind of able to do both things. And I think it's really cool.
I am Annie. I am currently Miss Mississippi Crown for the Miss America organization, but I am someone who absolutely loves NAMI as well as mental health, and so I'm here as a passionate advocate, but also hopefully a future Miss Illinois.
And thank you all for joining us. Our first self-care tip today is snacking is self-care. All of us, the majority of us, have some form of snacking going on.
We can get started with, well, we were already talking about self-care because it's a topic that you can just start ranting about. So before we get back into that conversation that we were not previously recording, we do have lots of important things to talk about today. My name is Annie. I just introduced myself. We are co-hosting today by Arielle J, and we are Mental Health Unmuted. When we talk about self-care, what do you even think of when you hear self-care? Because I know for myself, I don't know if the things that I would characterize as self-care technically are included, but I think it's also very broad. It's just whatever you need at the moment. So I think, again, like staying in, drinking some tea, watching movies, just chilling. I think that's self-care because I'm pretty busy, but I would like to dive more into like the traditional feminine self-care. Like I want to have a face care routine. Like I don't really wash my face a lot. Little secret right there. I don't participate in like getting facials and that type of stuff. So I would like to do more of that self-care.
I mean, I do a bunch of different things that I guess would fall under that category. I mean, and I don't always do facials and things like that, but I definitely do that every once in a while. I mean, but I also think like bubble baths, candles, making yourself like your favorite drink that for me is not limited to just tea. Sometimes I would like to like make something that's just really fruity, like 5, 6 different things mixed together. That and snacks. I have to second what Teklii said earlier about snacks.
So self-care is buying an $8 coffee because you need the right milk in it. You need it. That's self-care.
Are you three on TikTok at all?
Mm-hmm.
I saw a video of a woman and her self-care routine, and she had a whole drawer that she would pull out and it had all of these individual little snacks. And she had a cup that she would then make out of like a fancy drink machine that would make some sort of blue fancy drink. And there was a plate/bowl that would go around the cup that she then filled with her snacks that fit perfectly in her little bathtub thing. So that's what that's what I saw when I was thinking, oh, maybe I should get into that type of self-care because I certainly don't have a little bubble machine for my bathtub, but maybe I want one.
I saw a short video like that too, and I was like inspired. I
Mm.
need a drawer of snacks. I need a drawer of cool liquid drinks that just look cool and taste good.
Yeah.
And I had a thing for a while, for like a whole year, where I would buy myself really cool like shaped cups, like glassware, just because I wanted more glassware in my life. So I went to like Dollar Trees and Big Lots and TJ Maxx's, and I just like bought cool cups. I've since then broken many of those cups.
Oh,
But I love them all so dearly. And that was what I considered self-care. So self-care at that time was buying myself cool cups.
Little drinks and stuff, little snacks. I do, yeah, I count that as self-care too. I'm like, I'm at the store, I'm like, I'm gonna get myself a little treat, and it's like a flavored water.
Is there one like self-care activity or memory you have that you were like, okay, that day was just like really good. I did a lot of cool things that I enjoyed doing.
Years ago, I would basically take Saturdays as like self-care day. It wasn't like the whole day or anything, I don't think. But I was living with my sister, and she worked in the mornings on Saturday, so I would like get up. I think I would actually clean, but eventually I would leave to be taking a bath. A lot of Saturdays in a row, I was like, oh, take a bath, and I'm gonna read in the bath because I love reading. So definitely, I love a good bath.
I went to California once to visit my partner's family at the time. And we were on the train, and there was this person who was doing the most, but they told us about this spa, and I can't remember the name of it. I tried to Google it and I can't find it, but they were like, oh, you need to go to this spa to get all of the negative chemicals out. Regardless, you paid like $50 when you got to the door, and it was like, you can stay for as long as you want. They had a restaurant in there, and I didn't really know what it was. And they gave you shorts and a shirt, and they were like, you have to wear this. It turns out it was a traditional spa that had like 5 different rooms, and then female and male rooms, but then also like sleeping areas and things. And so I sat in a bunch of different saunas and like different rooms. And I remember this because I was so relaxed throughout the experience that I fell asleep on one of the little sleeping mats in a room, just like surrounded by like 100 people talking, half of them sleeping, doing whatever. And I woke up like 4 hours later and my contacts were all dry, and I was like, we gotta go. And so we left at like 2 a.m. And I've never been back. But that was
Wow.
such an experience. And I was like, I had to be relaxed to fall asleep on a mat on the floor, surrounded by a bunch of people talking. I do want to go back though and wear my glasses, so then I kind of want to see how long I can live there because they don't kick you
um,
out. There's food. So
did you have to pay for the food, or was it all included?
the food you did have to pay for, and that was also one of the things is we did not have cash, and it's only cash, so we only had our cards.
That's an experience.
There were a lot of experiences on my trip to California that I quite enjoyed. I would like to go back. I think that would be self-care, is paying for vacations that I would enjoy. Do you think that counts?
Oh my God, yeah. I think anything can be self-care if it makes you happy.
Well, that story is definitely making me want to go to whatever spa that is. I don't know how long I'd want to stay there, but I would definitely want to be there for a few hours just to see like the experience and everything.
I know that there's a place in Chicago that's like air ancient baths or something. I've seen that on TikTok. And I
Mm.
don't know if it's the same type of thing. They probably have a time limit or whatever, and you certainly probably can't sleep there. I don't know. But
Mm.
there's a place that's like ancient air baths in Chicago that has a bunch of different like hot tubs and cold plunges, and I think they have like saunas. But it's also really expensive. And I think that a lot of the self-care things that we end up doing are expensive because like food's expensive and spas are definitely expensive.
I mean, but you know what's not expensive? Like, because my family used to do this, where like we would go to Dollar Tree and they would have a bunch of brand name stuff. So we would stock up on face masks, and they had like bubble bath and those salts like that you put in the bath, Epsom salts. So
Mhm.
so we get all of those, and then we do a whole thing where we have like an at-home spa day. That I think was really cool.
Was there always like a presence of the importance of self-care in your household?
I think that's something that we didn't really understand as much growing up, but as we got older, it became more of a priority.
Yeah, I was gonna say in my household, we did what if I refer to it now as low budget self-care when it came to like purchasing things. Like I think, dollar nail polish kits or, $3 here and there. But then like a lot of times inexpensive things for self-care were kind of the same, like making sure that we got enough sleeps, like napping. That was a big thing. We considered that self-care. Taking a bath, shower, things that were at home. Sometimes it was just putting a blanket out in the lawn and just sitting out in the sun and just sunbathing for a while. Like that self-care was like a very big deal in my family from a very young age. And we were like, it's interesting to hear someone say that it wasn't as a parent growing up that that's what it was, because in my household, it was very apparent. Like, it wasn't always having to do something trendy like spas or massages. Since we live near a community college as well as a bigger campus, when I was younger, I remember one of my parents would go get like I think it was like $35 or free massages from the massage school. When they wanted their students to graduate, they have to practice on somebody, and so you could
Mm-hmm.
get like really cheap massages like twice a year. And I
Yes.
remember getting pulled
Yes.
into that when I was a younger kid of like, hey, if you want a massage, you should do this. And I'm not big on people touching me. And so I was like a no on I'm not doing a massage. But I thought it was such a grand idea. You're helping somebody else, you're getting a massage out of it. So I love like low budget and not too expensive self-care or just taking care of yourself lifestyle habits.
I think that's important too, because I think when I was looking it up back in 2019, there was a NAMI post published by Britt M about like struggles of self care and saying that self care has become too expensive and unaccessible. So I like number one, Dollar Tree rocks, and I absolutely love it. I love it for snacks too.
Speaking of self-care, something that we should all be doing more of in our self-care choices is checking in with ourselves. What's so funny is like this can be like such a very serious podcast episode, but we're just like self-care is being able to joke around with friends.
Yeah.
You need to.
Yeah. Especially when things are tough. It's good to find the good moments, good thoughts in bad times.
Especially if you work in a field that's really demanding, like first responders, or if you're going through something in your personal life that you know other people can relate to. They say laughter's the best medicine. I agree with that.
Yeah, fun fact. I did an internship at a morgue because I was gonna
Oh.
I know it's like really wild, but like I was interested in going into physical forensic anthropology. Trigger warning if nobody wants to hear about it. Decomposition of humans, which forensic anthropology is like looking at decomposed bodies and trying to figure out like what happened. So, anyways, I was like, okay, if I want to do that, I have to be around dead bodies, and if I can't handle it, I should not go into this field. So I did an internship at a morgue for like a month. I'm only mentioning this because like they dealt with going and doing all of the things that they do by like humor, like probably pretty dark humor, but like for them, it helps them.
That's that work-life balance conversation that gets brought up all the time. I went to a conference event and one of the big keynotes was about time management, and then the stresses of being in an administrative role can be very depleting and it takes a lot of energy. And I was like, how do you self-monitor and then take care of that and kind of create that work-life balance? And somebody outside that session said, when you're looking at work-life balance, it doesn't have to be level, it just has to be balanced. We're always trying to strive for like work and life to be exactly the same. And then this person said, yeah, but they don't need to be exactly the same. They just have to balance out. You can have more on one side. And so since then, I've been trying to put that and reflect that back into my life because I thought that actually could be very helpful as a person who works from home, because my home is my work life and then my work life is at home. And so trying to find that balance has been very challenging. And there's not a lot of people. You'd think there'd be more people talking about it because we had, COVID and people were working from home. But all I got from that was people are more stressed out what does the personal self-care look like in that like work balance? For me, it's like shutting off my computer at a certain time and then not answering anybody.
Yeah, that's me too, man. I'm off the clock. I'm not answering.
I know we've been talking about like activities that you can do for self-care, but I quit a job that was terrible for my mental health. Like I was waking up in the middle of the night sobbing to my partner because I was like, this will never end. Like deciding to leave that job was one of the biggest avenues of self-care that I could do because I was like, staying here is not good for my mental health, physical health. Like there's no positive reason to be here. So for myself, I need to step away, even though it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But like what you just said, Teklii, like it doesn't need to be 50-50, it just needs to be equal. So I'm in a position now where I'm not using my degree, so I'm not very happy about that because I do have my master's degree and I feel like sometimes I should be working in one of those avenues, but also the job that I have allows me to do stuff like this and do Miss America, and I have all the time in the world to get another job like I had. But I think that there's always a stigma around having feelings, and like for a long time, feelings have been seen for weaknesses. And so, especially like taking your feelings into consideration with your self care and making decisions like that, I'm very proud of myself for quitting. That's for sure.
So, I mean, we know that it's really good to let ourselves feel our feelings. And I know we kind of heard a little bit about Annie's story, but kind of wanted to open it up a little bit, see if anyone else wanted to talk about any times and they were feeling big feelings that told us that we needed some sort of self-care.
I experienced burnout the first time this year. Yeah, that was interesting because I'm not used to not being aware of myself. And so I did not know I was burnt out until I was looking at the symptoms of myself and like, I'm like taking care of myself. And then I realized that, oh, I had taken up more responsibilities at one of my roles. And it was like, maybe it's just because I'm not used to doing this many. I did my hours for like 2 months. And I was looking at that and I'm like, that is a lot of hours that I spent doing something. And then looked it up and I'm like, this is burnout. That's what this experience is. But I didn't know what it was for like a good 2 weeks after feeling that way. I just knew something was off and I'm like, I can't figure this out. And it was like I was up a wall, just like, what's going on with me? So it was burnout. I needed to take some time away from doing everything and then really watch because I had to watch my hours a bit more. I figured it out. I took some time, I reflected. I'm not working that many hours right now. I'm more aware of it, and I haven't had those feelings again.
I feel like some people have to go through that more than once and they still don't learn that lesson.
Are you guys like a cry it out in the car type of people? I think I cry in the car a good amount, but it's mostly just because I'm listening to like music that makes me cry.
Yeah. I think it's actually funny that I'm like, yeah, I cry. I feel like I cry a lot in the car. It's like I don't even actually have a car. I'm like borrowing my grandpa's right now. So like on a normal day, I don't have a car, so I'm not crying in one. But anyways, I don't cry on the subway or the L or like, the train or whatever, because I don't want people to look at me.
So if you did have a car, you're saying that you would
If
be
I
a
had a
car
car, I'd probably
crier.
be crying more than I do now.
I
Yeah.
I should probably cry more. I don't think I cry as much as I should be.
Well, do you hold it back or do you just not have
I
cry
just feel
feelings?
like I'll just feel like a little teary, and then I'm just like, I'm not sad about this. Kind of move on. That's just kind of how I am, but I don't tend to cry a lot. It's kind of like a running joke with me and my sibling.
You know, maybe that's just proper emotional regulation. You know, maybe you
Yeah.
should be very proud of yourself for
Huh.
your accomplishments.
Yeah, I don't feel bad about not crying enough. You cry as much as you cry, and that's it.
Yeah. And if you feel like crying, go ahead and cry because sometimes you do just need a good feelings.
Yeah, and I feel like crying, it does release emotions. Like that's like the whole point. I'm pretty sure the science, and I'm not a clinician, but when you're feeling a certain high of emotions, crying can be triggered regardless whether you're happy, whether you're feeling joyful, whether you're sad, whether
True.
you're like, hey, it's just like it's a release of emotions or energy. And kind of like hugs, it releases a feel good chemical in your brain that just kind of reduces your stress and overall feelings.
Do we have any other influential ideas about self-care that we want to chat about before we wrap this business up?
There were so many things. I need the listeners to understand. Arielle H put together wonderful show notes, and the four of us who showed up, we read through them. We thought they were great, and then we were like, it'd be like really interesting having a conversation. I really loved this prompt, which was it feels like self-care when I really enjoyed this prompt.
Yeah. Putting lotion on your hands and before you go to bed, self-care. Wearing socks to bed, probably self-care.
What?
What? Wearing socks to bed?
I'm weird about socks.
I know some people are, and like that's totally fine. Not wearing socks to bed, also self-care.
I like this prompt. Do you allow yourself to have a good cry over something hard in your life? I think we all agree. Car crying. Train crying.
Do I allow myself, or does it happen to me separate?
Self-care is allowing yourself the space to have a good cry.
Self-care. Yeah, I think listening to music is also good self-care. I have a very specific playlist. I mean, I didn't make it. I just like found it. But it's I call it my calming playlist because it's like meditation kind of music. And so if I'm like actually like really angry, I'll like play it to try and calm myself down. It's worked before.
I used to listen to like meditation, relaxing music to go to sleep, but then one night an ad came on and did me so dirty. It was like, and I woke up terrified and I was like, I'm never doing this again. To wrap up this episode, we would like to share some resources and encourage you to take care of yourself, whatever that might look like, even if that is just joining a youth and young adult work group so you can chat with some friends, or if it's doing some self-care spa days, whatever works for you. You can find the link to the NAMI blog post that I mentioned in the show notes, or go to nami.org. There you can find a whole bunch of information to help you with your self-care.
And don't forget that you too can join the Mental Health Unmuted work group if you're between 17 and 27 and are interested in becoming an advocate for youth and young adults. Visit namiillinois.org and find our tab space. We'll have opportunities to speak, present, and maybe join us in the podcast.
Self-care really does look different for everyone. And if that is joking around, doing whatever you need to do, what works for you, that's what matters. So we are so thankful that you were able to join us today.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this NAMI Illinois podcast. This episode was directed, produced, and edited by Arielle Hernandez-Lyons. This episode was a collaborative episode and hosted by Annie Kamps and Arielle Jones. Special thank you to our panelists and the National Alliance on Mental Illness Illinois State Organization for their support to emphasize youth and young adult voices. Check out this episode description to find resources and links about some of the topics we talked about. We'd love to hear from you. Find us at namiillinois.org and tell us what your go-to self-care activity is. If you or someone you know is in a crisis, call or text the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at 988 in the United States. For imminent danger, call 911 and request a crisis intervention trained officer.